I forgot to record an intro for the video, so I'll just say that today we bring you an hour of One Piece theories for you to listen to in the background while you do other things or even try to sleep. I really appreciate a subscription to reach 1,000 subscribers. And that you leave me in the comments what you're doing while you listen to this video, just out of curiosity. Now I'll leave you with the video.
Okay, get ready for this because we are diving deep into Elbaf today.
Definitely.
And your research,
Oh, yeah.
it's got me so hyped.
Yeah.
Like seriously hyped
How best.
for this arc.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at Elbaf through like this lens of Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And with all the hints Oda's dropped, you just know he's got
Yeah.
something huge planned. Runes, prophecies.
Right.
Maybe even like a giant tree holding everything together.
It's going to be big, I know.
It'd be wild.
Yeah, you're right to be excited, I have to say.
Oh yeah.
Elbaf has been like this legend whispered about in the
Right.
world of One Piece
Yeah.
for decades now, almost as long as the hunt for the One Piece itself.
It's crazy.
What makes your research, your deep dive so intriguing is that Oda, he might actually use Elbaf
Right.
to finally answer some of those burning questions we have, like what was the Void Century? What are the ancient weapons all about? Maybe even like the very nature of their world.
Right. Right.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
But I think
Yeah.
a good place to start would be with the giants themselves.
Oh yeah, the giants.
They're so fiercely devoted to the sun god Nika, right?
Yes.
Which, knowing Luffy,
I know, right?
throws a bit of a curveball into the mix, don't you think?
Absolutely, because this is the guy who, like, he would rather, like, devour a mountain of meat
Yeah.
than be called a god.
Torn.
Even if his powers are
Yeah.
literally screaming otherwise. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know.
It's not every day that you see someone a walking contradiction like that,
Yeah.
especially in a society that seemingly worships the very power that he embodies.
Right. Like, how does that even work?
Exactly.
Just like the ultimate clash of ideals, right?
Definitely.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
like, imagine Luffy,
Right?
this guy who champions freedom, scoffs at authority,
Mhm.
and then he lands in this place, Elbaf,
Right.
where Nika, literally the embodiment of his powers,
Yeah.
is revered.
It's like, whoa.
Like, what?
Yeah.
How does he reconcile those conflicting views?
I don't know.
Especially if their culture, like, demands that he embrace this role
Yeah.
he wants nothing to do with.
Right. It could be like a huge turning point for him,
I think so.
forcing him to confront not just Elbaf's traditions.
But also, like, the true nature of his own powers.
Totally. Talk about an identity crisis.
Right.
And that makes you wonder, like, will his powers even work the same way in Elbaf?
Who knows?
What if the environment, the beliefs, even like the very air of Elbaf
Right.
interacts with his devil fruit in these crazy, unexpected ways?
Yeah.
Like, this could be where his whole, like, devil may care approach to his powers
Oh,
gets a reality check.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And don't even get me started on that image from the arc's introduction. That massive tree.
Oh, it's true.
It immediately makes you think of Yggdrasil, right?
Yes.
The world tree connecting the 9 realms in Norse cosmology.
It's like, the moment I saw that tree, my mind went straight to Yggdrasil.
Of course. Knowing Oda.
This isn't just some random environmental design choice.
No way.
This tree could be the key to unlocking major secrets.
Like what?
Maybe even a pathway to parts of their world that we haven't even seen yet.
Right. What if it's like a literal connection between islands?
It could be.
Or a way to get to, like, the moon?
Who knows? Think about it.
I know.
Especially with Enel just sitting up there
Right.
with his ties to ancient history.
I know.
Oda loves to plant those seeds.
He does.
And this feels like way more than just a coincidence.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be good.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Speaking of Oda and, like, planting these seeds and pulling from history,
Right.
there's something else in your research that, like, totally fascinated me.
Okay. Yeah.
The story of the Prose Edda.
Ah, yeah. A perfect example of like cultural survival, right?
Yes, exactly. It's this, like, collection of Norse myths and
Yes.
poems, and it only survived because it was, like, disguised as fiction.
Right.
How wild is that, to think that these epic tales were almost lost forever?
Trees.
And it got me thinking about Wano
Mm-hmm.
and how Oda used that arc to explore, like
Right.
themes of cultural erasure
Yeah.
and the power of stories.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
like they're so intertwined.
It's a brilliant parallel, and it really speaks to Oda's ability to weave these seemingly like disparate threads,
Yeah,
into this really cohesive narrative.
right, exactly.
You know, the prose Edda, it was disguised to protect it, and
Right.
that echoes Wano's struggle to preserve its own history, its heritage.
Right, and it's like he's saying, like,
Yeah.
even in a world dominated by power,
Yeah.
stories have this way of enduring,
Totally.
of like finding a way through.
Yeah, yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, if Elbaf is the next stop on this journey,
Right,
what stories are going to be uncovered there?
right.
And how are they going to, like, reshape our understanding of the One Piece world?
100%. 100%. And speaking of stories, your research delves into some really like fascinating possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
When you start to think about the inclusion of these Norse figures,
Right.
Loki, for instance,
Oh, Loki.
really caught my eye. Often he's portrayed as like this straight up villain.
Yeah, yeah.
But you propose a different take.
Yeah.
Loki as this like mischievous trickster.
I love that idea. And it fits so perfectly with those little Lego hints that Oda dropped early on.
Yes.
It's like he's, like, toying them with us.
Yeah, totally.
Like using those nods to Scandinavian culture
Mm.
to just, like, hint at something deeper.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Like, what else you got, Oda?
And if we're kind of like leaning into those cultural references, like what if he takes it a step further?
Yeah, what if he does?
Imagine this. Zoro,
Yeah.
who is notoriously bad with directions,
Oh, you know, right.
gets lost,
Uh-huh.
but not in like some ancient forest,
Right.
but a giant IKEA.
Oh, my God. Stop.
Right. It's like this playful nod to those Scandinavian stereotypes.
Yeah.
But it also creates like this hilarious scenario.
Oh, totally. I need to see that. Zoro trying to decipher IKEA instructions.
Yes.
While, like, battling mythical creatures. Come on.
It writes itself.
It does. It does. But, okay, so back to Loki.
Okay, yeah.
I love this idea of him being more mischievous than, like, straight up malicious. It opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah, it does.
Especially for Usopp, I think.
Usopp, the brave warrior of the sea.
Yes.
Or at least he will be.
One day.
But you're right, Loki's presence could be that catalyst for Usopp's growth.
Right, yeah.
Like, what if Loki's trickery?
Yeah.
It's not about, like, causing harm,
Right.
but it's actually setting the stage for Usopp to shine.
Like, how would that even work?
Imagine, okay, Loki shows up, right? And his deception, everyone's fooled.
Okay.
But Usopp,
Yep.
with his sharp mind
I know, right? You think so?
and his keen observation, he sees through it.
Usopp.
Usopp, he's the only one.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Right. It's the classic, like, underdog story.
Yeah.
But with that One Piece twist,
I like it.
where Usopp, the sniper who cries wolf,
Yes.
becomes the one person who can actually expose the truth.
He's not lying this time.
Right. And it challenges everyone's perceptions
And he saves the day.
and potentially saves the day.
I love that.
It's like this moment where,
Right.
his lies actually become his strength.
Oh, that's
They
good.
allow him to see what other people miss.
Wow.
Right.
That's really good.
And we can't forget about the potential for Niflheim,
Niflheim.
the underworld.
Right, right.
Now, I know what you're thinking.
Yes, absolutely.
We don't want, like, some cliche trip
Right, it's been done.
to the land of the dead, you know?
Right, yeah.
But what if it's not about, like, these grand spectacles and,
Yeah.
these huge set pieces? What if it's about something much more personal, like a personal journey, especially for Brooke?
Brooke in the underworld.
Think about it.
Now that's interesting.
He's the one character who's actually experienced death,
That's true.
who understands that boundary between life and what lies beyond.
He's walked that line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine Niflheim as like a reflection of Brooke's past,
Oh, okay.
a realm where he actually has to confront like maybe lingering fears
Right.
or some kind of unresolved issue from his previous life.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wouldn't just be like a detour.
Right.
It would be a crucial part of his character arc.
Right. It would make it, like, really meaningful.
It adds a whole other dimension to his journey.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, so we've got Luffy potentially having, like, this existential crisis.
Yeah,
Zoro, like, building furniture in a mythical land.
it's great.
And Brooke, like, having a therapy session with his past in the underworld.
I love it.
Elbaf is going to be wild. But you know what really stood out to me in your research?
What's that?
The runes.
Oh, yeah. Those runes, they're just begging to be figured out, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And you were talking about their potential connection to the voice of all things, and like even Conqueror's Hakesi.
Right.
Could this be the arc where Oda finally gives us like the Hakasti rundown?
I think so.
Like everything.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. Given how important Elbaf seems to be thematically.
Right.
I mean, think about it. You've got these giants. They're like steeped in ancient traditions.
Right.
It's a place where like myths and legends, they just come to life.
Yeah. Like it just feels right.
And the runes, as this form of like ancient language, ancient magic,
Right.
could be the key to unlocking these like higher levels of power.
Right. And like maybe explaining how they're connected to the voice of all things.
Exactly. It's like this giant puzzle.
Oh, I like that.
And the runes are those missing pieces that
Yes.
bring everything into focus.
I'm here for it. Bring on the runes.
Right. And speaking of mysteries, we need solved.
Okay, yeah.
We haven't even touched on that whole eye patch pirate thing
Oh, right, yeah.
that Oda keeps dangling in front of us.
Oda, come on. Just tell us.
For years, fans have been speculating.
Oh, I know.
And now with Elbaf on the horizon and with your research about like Odin's sacrifice.
Odin.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
For wisdom, it takes on a whole new meaning, don't you think?
You think Luffy's really gonna lose an eye in Elbaf?
It would be a bold move.
It would.
Even for Oda.
Right.
But it would be huge.
But then again, sacrifice is kind of a big deal in One Piece, right?
Oh, totally. And not just in One Piece, but in, like, myths and legends all over.
That's true. That's true.
Throughout history.
Okay.
And thematically, it would make sense, right?
Yeah.
With Odin's sacrifice.
Right, but what if Oda flips the script?
Okay, how?
Like, what if the eye patch isn't literal?
Okay.
What if it's symbolic?
Interesting. Like what?
Like, Luffy's sacrifice isn't physical. Okay.
It's something way deeper.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Right.
Like what?
Like he has to make a choice that, like, compromises his ideals. Or maybe he has to choose between what he wants and, like, the safety of his crew.
Ooh, that would be tough.
Right.
That kind of sacrifice, that test, you know, it's like way more impactful than just losing an eye.
Right. Because that's Luffy's thing.
Yeah.
Defying expectations.
He's all about it.
But let's talk expectations for a second.
Okay.
Because you mentioned the Norns.
Ah, the Norns.
Okay. Trying to predict what Oda's going to do with them
I know.
is like a fool's errand. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Right. Like, good luck.
That's the beauty of it, though, right?
Okay.
It's the unpredictable nature of fate.
Yeah.
The idea that even if we get, like, a little glimpse of the future, it's really our choices that still matter.
Right. Exactly.
You know, it's a theme that we see all the time in One Piece.
Yeah.
And the Norns, if they show up,
Right.
could be like the embodiment of that whole struggle between destiny and free will, you know?
Totally. Like, imagine they show up and they give the Straw Hats this big prophecy.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe it's about Laugh Tale or like a warning about their ultimate enemy or
I think
something.
that'd be good.
And it's like, how does that knowledge, you know, mess with them?
Totally.
How does it influence their choices?
Exactly.
Do they just say okay and embrace their destiny, or do they try to fight it?
Right. It's a recipe for disaster, honestly.
Yeah.
But also some really good internal conflict, you know?
So good. And your research touched on one more thing that I have to ask you about.
Oh, yeah. Like
The Philgia.
The Philgia. Yes.
Tell me everything.
Okay, so in Norse mythology,
Yeah.
Philgia is like a guardian spirit.
Okay.
Often takes the form of an animal
Right.
that's connected to a person's fate, their destiny.
Right. Okay.
Now, apply that to devil fruits.
Okay.
But what if they're not just like magical fruits?
Yeah.
What if they're vessels
Yeah.
that are imbued with like a fragment of a soul
Wow.
with its own will?
Okay.
You know, maybe that explains why they're so rare, why they have such unique powers,
Right.
why some of them even seem to have like their own personality.
Oh, that's so interesting. Because, like, we've seen those little quirks
Totally.
with devil fruits, you know.
Yeah. Like, what if the soul inside the fruit
Right.
can influence the user?
Yes.
Maybe even try to like nudge them toward a certain destiny.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Right. It adds a whole other level
It does.
to this whole thing.
Devil fruits as fragments of a larger consciousness. That changes everything.
Right. We're talking next level stuff here.
Next level. I'm obsessed. Okay. Okay. I know we could talk about this for another hour.
We could.
But sadly, we're approaching the end of our Elbaf deep dive.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun, huh?
It really does. But okay, last question, and it's a big one. What happens after Elbaf? Like, this feels huge.
Yeah.
Like, this is the bridge to the end game.
You're right to feel that way. Elbaf can't just be a quick stop.
Right.
It has to, like, launch us forward.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Maybe Elbaf is where the Straw Hats finally get all the info they need about Laugh-Tale, like
Yeah.
the real history of the world.
Okay.
Or, and this is a thought that both excites me and terrifies me at the same time.
Okay, I'm ready.
This is where they suffer a major loss,
Oh, no.
like a real blow.
I know.
That reminds them that, like, the path to the One Piece,
Yeah.
it's not easy.
It's paved with sacrifice.
Exactly.
You have officially given me chills and a ton to think about.
It's gonna be big.
It is. Any final words of wisdom before we leave Elbaf and sail into the unknown?
Remember, the journey is just as important as the destination.
Okay, I like that.
Keep theorizing, keep questioning, and most importantly, enjoy
Yeah.
the ride.
So well said. And to you, dear listener, keep those theories coming. Your deep dive has, like, opened up a world of possibilities.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see how it all unfolds in this crazy epic saga that is One Piece. Until next time, happy sailing.
Hey there, fellow theorists. Get ready, because today we're diving deep into Elbaf.
Deep.
We're breaking down
Culps.
some seriously interesting One Piece theories.
Yeah.
This time we're looking at a video essay suggesting
Okay.
that the legendary Norse god Odin might actually have a big role to play in the arc.
Yeah. It's a really interesting theory.
Right.
Especially given, like, One Piece's history of weaving in mythology.
Right.
And what makes this one so interesting, I think, is the level of detail.
Yes.
It's not just like throwing Odin in there for the sake of it.
right.
The essay actually, like, connects specific events and characters we see in Elbaf to Norse mythology.
Oh, okay.
So
I like it.
It makes some pretty convincing arguments.
Yeah, let's unpack this a little
Okay.
bit. So the essay really focuses on Luffy's arrival in Elbaf,
Okay.
specifically the giant raven Mugen that brings him there.
Right.
Remember how we were all kind of wondering about that name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, apparently, it might be a huge clue.
Yeah. Yeah. The essay points out a connection between Mugen and Odin's ravens
Mm-hmm.
in Norse mythology.
Okay.
Hugin and Munin.
Right.
And they were basically Odin's, like, eyes and ears, always flying around, gathering information.
Okay.
So the theory is suggesting that Mugen might serve a similar purpose in Elbaf,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps even answering directly to Odin himself.
Oh, wow. That would be wild.
It would be very interesting.
Especially since we've already seen some hints of, like, division among the giants themselves.
Hmm.
Like, remember how Road was fuming when he found out that Hajrudin joined Luffy's Grand Fleet?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's clear that not all the giants are on board with humans.
No, they're not all happy about it.
Right.
That's a great point. I mean,
Yeah.
Rhodes' reaction was very telling.
Yes.
I think he even said something like, giants who follow humans have lost their way,
right.
which is
Yeah,
pretty strong words.
it is.
It definitely points toward, like, a deeper conflict within Elbaf.
Yeah.
Possibly between, factions with differing views on humans and their place in the world.
Right. So could Road and those that share his view
Yeah.
be aligned with a certain, like, powerful figure who might not be too keen on humans either?
Potentially, yeah.
Someone like Odin.
That's exactly where the essay takes us.
Okay.
Yeah, if Odin is indeed a presence in Elbaf,
Mhm.
Road and those who distrust humans could very well be part of his faction,
Okay.
which adds a whole other layer to the power dynamics at play.
It does.
And speaking of Odin, there's another detail that adds even more weight to this theory.
Okay.
Remember how Loki, the, trickster god from Norse mythology,
All right.
is constantly referred to as a prince of Elbaf?
Yes. And that detail always seemed super important.
Yeah.
Like, it had to mean something beyond just a throwaway title.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where the essay really hooked me, because they're saying that if Loki's a prince,
Yeah.
well, there has to be a king somewhere.
Right.
Right. And who better to fit that role than Odin himself?
All right, so we've got Mugen potentially acting as Odin's eyes and ears.
Right.
We've got a disgruntled faction of giants who might be following him.
Potentially.
And a very important title for Loki that hints at a larger power structure in play here.
Yeah.
It's starting to feel like there's real potential to this Odin theory.
It's definitely interesting.
Right.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, no.
The essay goes even deeper, connecting the giants signature attack,
Okay.
the Spear of Elbaf,
Yes.
to Odin himself.
Oh, man. You know, I love it when Oda weaves those subtle mythology references
Oh, yeah.
into attacks and things like that.
Sure.
So what's the connection?
Well, in Norse mythology, Odin is famous for his spear Gungnir,
Right.
a weapon said to never miss its target.
Uh-huh.
So the theory suggests that the giant's Spear of Elbaf could be like a tribute
Right.
to Odin's legendary weapon,
Okay.
further solidifying his influence on their culture and history.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, this is already blowing my mind and we're just getting started.
Yeah.
But before we jump into the next level of this theory,
Right.
let's take a quick pause for our listeners to process all this amazing info.
Yeah.
We'll be back right after this. All right, we're back.
Back at it.
We've laid out some pretty compelling evidence so far
Yeah.
that points toward Odin having some kind of presence in Elbaf.
Definitely.
But this next part is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
What kind of role would Odin play in the story?
Right, because just knowing he might be there
Right.
doesn't tell us if he's friend or foe or
No.
something in between. And that's what makes it exciting.
Yes.
The essay outlines a couple of different scenarios,
Okay.
each with like huge implications for Luffy and the crew.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the first scenario?
So the first scenario basically puts Odin as like the current king of Elbaf,
Okay.
but one who's not exactly like
Right.
throwing a welcome feast for any pirate that washes up on shore. You know, he could be testing Luffy and the Straw Hats, putting them through trials,
Okay.
challenges to prove their strength and their worth.
I like it.
Right.
It really fits with those like core One Piece themes
Yeah,
of pushing past your limits and really earning your victories.
for sure.
Like a test of strength and character.
Exactly. And think about the narrative possibilities there.
Yeah.
We could see Luffy facing like challenges designed to push him to his absolute limit,
Right.
forcing him to tap into, new depths of his halaki
Yes.
or master new applications of his devil fruit powers.
This is giving me like training arc vibes.
Totally.
Remember how he trained with Rayleigh during the time skip?
Oh yeah.
To learn how to control his halaki?
Right.
I feel like this could be like that, but on another level.
Absolutely.
And imagine the battles too.
Oh yeah.
If Odin is like pulling the strings behind the scenes,
Yeah.
we could see some crazy stuff.
Luffy going up against opponents and obstacles unlike anything he's ever seen before.
Is-
It'd be amazing.
Okay, so that's the first scenario.
That's the first one.
What about the second one?
As compelling as that is, the second one the essay presents is even more intriguing.
Okay.
What if Odin isn't the current king,
Okay.
but a fallen king?
Ooh.
What if someone took his throne?
Don't tell me, Loki.
You got it. The essay suggests that Loki, being the trickster god that he is,
Right.
has usurped Odin's throne,
Oh, man.
perhaps even manipulating events to turn the giants against their former king.
Oh, that's such a classic power struggle.
Oh, it's perfect.
And it would be right up One Piece's alley.
Totally.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Luffy and the Straw Hats
Right.
joining forces with this fallen king to take down a corrupt ruler.
It's practically a One Piece story arc in a nutshell.
It's perfect.
Right. It taps into that recurring theme of fighting for what's right,
Yes.
even if it means siding with someone unexpected.
And remember Rhodes' whole thing about not liking giants who follow humans?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What if that's Loki's influence?
It could be.
Twisting the truth to maintain that power.
Exactly.
That adds a really cool layer to this.
It would make it so much more complex.
Luffy would not only be fighting for Elbaf's freedom, but also to restore the rightful king.
Right.
And expose all of Loki's deception.
Exactly.
And speaking of revelations, there's another layer to this whole Elbaf arc that we can't ignore.
Right.
The potential connection to Ragnarok
Yes.
and the secrets of the Void Century.
Ragnarok, for those who might not know.
Yeah.
Essentially the Norse apocalypse,
Yeah, right.
a cataclysmic event
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
involving, a great battle and the end of the world as they know it.
Right.
A lot of fans think that elements of Ragnarok are bound to play out in the Elbaf arc,
It feels very likely.
especially with all the, heightened states we've got going on
It does.
and the potential for global conflict.
Okay, and that brings us to the question that's been on everybody's mind.
Okay.
Since we first heard whispers of Elbaf, what happened to that massive library of ancient texts
Oh,
that the giant Saul saved from Mohara?
right.
The one with all the forbidden history about the Void Century?
What happened to it?
Where is it?
Where did it go?
What if, and hear me out,
Okay.
what if that library ended up in Odin's possession?
Oh, now that would be something.
Right.
That would explain a lot.
It would tie into the Ragnarok prophecy.
Right?
It could potentially give us the secrets behind the ancient weapons.
Oh, wow, yeah.
The true nature of the sun god, Nika.
Right.
Maybe even some stuff about Joy Boy's will.
The possibilities are really endless.
Right.
And on top of that,
Yeah.
we can't forget about the biggest wild card.
Oh, no.
Emu.
Right.
That mysterious figure,
Yeah.
shrouded in shadow, controlling the world government.
Right.
If the secrets of the Void Century are in danger of being revealed,
Yes.
you can bet Emu will be taking a personal interest.
Oh, man.
Like-
We're talking about a clash of titans here.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
Luffy and the Straw Hats,
Yeah.
potentially with a fallen king at their side,
Right?
going up against the full might of the world government,
The stakes are so high.
with the fate of the world in the balance.
It's almost too much to handle.
It's crazy. It's almost too epic to imagine.
It really is.
It's going to be wild. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
there's one more detail from this essay that I found super interesting.
Okay. What's that?
Remember that sleeping gas
Yes.
that Road used on the Straw Hats when they first got to Elbaf?
Yes.
That always kind of struck me as strange
Oh.
because it seems a little too advanced
Right.
for a place like Elbaf,
Yeah. It's a good point.
you know?
It is a little strange.
Which makes you wonder,
Yeah.
could Elbaf be hiding more?
Right. What if they've got technology or knowledge that's been lost to the rest of the world?
Right.
Maybe remnants from the Void Century itself.
Oh, man.
Right.
What if they hold the key to technology and power that rivals the world government?
It's definitely a possibility.
Right.
Especially when you think about the fact that Elbaf has never been conquered,
Right.
never been subjugated.
It's wild. With every layer we peel back, Elbaf just keeps getting more and more complex.
Yeah, more interesting too.
It really does. But I have to ask,
Yeah.
what does it all mean?
What does it mean?
If these theories are true, what kind of impact could this have on, like, the future of One Piece?
Well, if Elbaf truly holds the key to unlocking the secrets of the Void Century,
Yeah.
the implications are massive.
Right.
I mean, it could literally rewrite history as we know it,
Wow.
exposing the world government's, darkest secrets,
Right.
potentially sparking a revolution
Right, yeah.
that could change the world.
We're talking about a paradigm shift for the entire world of One Piece. This is huge.
It's huge.
But hold on, I have one more question.
Okay.
If Elbaf is this important,
Yeah.
why haven't we seen Shanks there yet?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Right. He's always got his finger on the pulse.
Well-
All these, like, world-changing events.
He does seem to know what's going on.
Where does he fit into all of this?
Right.
That's the million-berry question, isn't it? Where does Shanks fit into all of this?
Yeah.
He's got to be aware of Elbaf, especially if it's this important.
Right.
If it really does hold the secrets to the Void Century,
Yeah.
he's got to know.
It wouldn't be like him to be out of the loop on something this big.
Right.
Maybe he's biding his time,
Okay.
waiting for the right moment.
Right.
He's always been a bit of a strategist.
Right.
Prefers to kind of operate from the shadows a little bit,
Right.
influence things subtly.
Right.
It's totally possible that Shanks is already involved in Elbaf in some way.
Okay.
Maybe even working behind the scenes
Okay.
to, support a side or protect certain secrets.
Oh, man. The intrigue never stops. Okay. But let's bring this back to Luffy for a sec.
Okay.
If Odin really is involved in all of this,
Yeah.
and he's not exactly like welcoming the Straw Hats with open arms,
Right.
what does that mean for Luffy's goal?
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
Luffy just wants to befriend the giant.
Right.
Experience their culture.
Right.
Gain their support in becoming Pirate King.
Right.
But if Odin, as king or, even fallen king,
Right.
presents an obstacle,
Right.
Luffy's going to need to adapt.
He is going to need to figure something out.
Yeah,
Luffy's all about facing challenges head on.
he is.
But he's also learned that, strategy and alliances are important.
for sure.
We've seen him team up with some pretty unlikely allies.
Yeah.
Do you think that he could find common ground with Odin,
It's possible.
even if their goals don't really line up?
I mean, Luffy has a way of seeing the good in people,
Right.
even when it's not obvious to anyone else.
Right.
So if Odin really is driven by, good intentions,
Okay.
even if his methods are a little unconventional,
Right.
Luffy might be the one to bridge that gap, make that connection.
I can see it now. Luffy with that big old grin,
Right.
somehow convincing Odin to join his cause, or at least work together.
Team up.
It wouldn't be the first time Luffy's, charmed his way into an alliance.
Exactly. And think about how well that would fit thematically.
Right.
I mean, we've seen Luffy challenge authority figures before.
So many.
Right. Arlong, Enel, Doflamingo.
Yes.
So if Odin is a good guy
Right.
who's been, betrayed and manipulated by Loki,
Right.
it would make perfect sense for Luffy to fight for him.
Okay, this is huge. Talk about an epic showdown.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Luffy versus the world government, the fate of Elbaf, the secrets of the Void Century, all in the balance.
It's going to be good.
I am so ready for this arc to unfold.
It's going to be amazing.
You know what this whole discussion has got me thinking?
What's that?
What if the secrets in Elbaf aren't just about history
Okay.
or lost technology?
Yeah.
What if they tell us about, like, the world itself?
Okay.
Maybe even the One Piece.
Oh, wow.
Like, what if it's even bigger than we thought?
Right. What if it redefines everything?
Yes,
It would be fitting
it would.
for a place like Elbaf.
Okay. Well, one thing's for sure.
What's that?
We are in for one heck of a ride.
We are.
Elbaf is going to be a game changer.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see what happens.
Keep your eyes peeled for those clues.
Yes. Any little hint that Oda drops.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this has been awesome.
It has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through Elbaf and Odin and all of that.
Of course.
Until next time, keep theorizing and keep the spirit of adventure alive.
Absolutely. All right. Let's dive into all things giants and Elbaf today.
Yeah. Eldon.
25 years in the making.
I know.
Finally, we get some answers, and the latest One Piece chapter
Oh, it did not disappoint.
did not disappoint.
Not at all. It's like Oda just like knew
Right.
how huge this would be.
How big of a reveal Elbaf would
If
be.
you know, and he was carefully planting these seeds all this time.
And weaving in the Norse mythology, too.
Yeah,
It's just
that's like the next level.
next level storytelling.
Yeah.
We remember Dory and Brogy, right?
Oh yeah,
Elbaf is their home turf.
it is.
This is a place where warriors are practically royalty.
Exactly.
It seems like these warrior traditions
Yeah,
are
yeah,
about
yeah.
to collide with some seriously world-ending ambition.
They are.
Yeah, because at the center of it all is Prince Loki.
Prince Loki.
This guy is intense.
He's intense.
That reveal in the latest chapter, blindfolded, radiating power.
The blind
And get this, he wants to bring about Ragnarok. Wants to end the world.
wants to end the world.
Yeah, that reveal panel. I mean, talk about larger than life.
He's got that same.
He's got that same presence as Ord.
As Oars from Thriller Bark.
From Thriller Bark, yeah.
Ew.
What's fascinating is that Loki being blindfolded,
Oh yeah.
it might actually be a clue.
Right.
Because in Norse mythology, Loki gets punished
Okay.
by being bound and having venom dripped on his face.
Interesting.
Could this be foreshadowing?
That's possible.
What do you think?
It's definitely possible. And I think
Right.
that's what's so interesting about
Yeah.
how Oda's using these mythological elements.
Yeah.
You know, like, is he going to do it straight or is he twisting it
Yeah.
to make it work for the story? But
Right.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Loki's not the only prince in Elbaf.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Two princes.
Two princes.
Okay, so is this a power struggle?
Well, it's interesting because King Harold, their father,
Okay.
is already dead. So the fact that they're both still called prince,
Right.
you know, it implies that there are some serious complications
Okay.
in how Elbaf determines its next ruler.
Ooh, this is giving me some Doflamingo Corazon vibes.
Exactly.
Good brother versus bad brother dynamic.
Yeah, and if we're looking at the Norse mythology,
Okay.
Haruden actually lines up with Odin more than Loki.
Right?
He's got that desire to be king.
Right.
His attack is called Gwar, after Odin's spear.
Oh, wow.
And he embodies that respect for giant traditions.
Plus, he teamed up with Luffy, so
Yeah, well, that's
it's
based.
the stamp of approval
Yeah,
for good guys in the One Piece world, right?
it is.
But if they're not actually related by blood,
Right.
what's the deal with their connection?
Well,
The source was mentioning something about them being blood brothers.
yeah, in Norse mythology, Odin and Loki had this ritual
Right.
where they mix their blood to become like sworn brothers.
Okay.
So maybe Loki and Haruden have this bond that goes beyond family ties. Something forged through shared experience or goal.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that adds a whole other layer
it does.
to their relationship.
It does.
Especially if one wants to destroy the world and the other wants to rule it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That definitely sets the stage for some conflict.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a second and talk about Loki's devil fruit.
Okay.
because we finally know he has it.
Okay.
The real question is,
Yes.
what kind of power does this heirloom fruit grant him?
Right. And the source was suggesting it might even be more important than Luffy
Oh, yeah.
in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Talk about pressure.
I know, poor Loki.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at the different fruit types,
Okay.
we've got Zoans, Paramecias, and Logias,
Right.
all with wildly different abilities.
Yeah.
So let's start with Zoans.
Okay.
Given the Elbaf connection to giants,
Right.
what if it's a true sun god Zoan,
Oh.
contrasting with Luffy's sun god Nika form,
Okay.
giving us two sides of the same mythical coin?
I like that.
What do you think?
I do like that.
Yeah.
The sun god battle would be amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's another Zoan possibility
Okay.
that's been making the rounds.
Ah.
The Fenrir fruit?
Oh, Fenrir.
You know, the giant wolf
The giant wolf.
from Norse mythology?
Right.
That's destined to kill Odin
During Ragnarok.
during Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's a popular one.
It's a popular theory, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it ties into the Norse theme,
It does.
connects to Loki's ambition to bring about Ragnarok.
Yep.
And it parallels Yamato's mythical dog fruit,
Oh, nice.
only with fire instead of ice.
I like that.
Okay, so I'm already kind of sold on the Fenrir zone,
Okay.
but let's play devil's advocate.
Okay.
What if it's a Paramecia?
All right.
Could we be dealing with some kind of sun-based power?
Possibly.
Or
Manipulate.
weather manipulation?
Ooh.
Making Loki a living embodiment of Uranus.
Weather manipulation.
I mean,
you know, a good one.
Anything is possible with Oda.
That's a really good one.
Right.
Yeah.
So a sun fruit would tie in with Vegapunk's research
Oh, yeah.
on the ancient energy source,
It would.
the mother flame,
Right.
and weather control
Yeah, think about that.
would be devastating.
In the wrong hands.
Right.
Devastating.
Plus, remember how Loki's known as a trickster
Oh, yeah, the trickster god.
in Norse mythologies?
Right.
What if his fruit is tied to hypnosis
Ooh,
or manipulation?
that's a good one.
You know, like mind control.
Mind control, yeah.
He could totally mess with people's perceptions.
He could.
Maybe even control Uranus.
Oh, if it turns out to be
If it turns out to be a living being.
a living being, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So many possibilities
So many possibilities with Paramecias.
with Paramecias.
But let's
Yeah.
not forget about Logias.
Oh, well.
This is where things could get really interesting.
You mean like a sun Logia
Like a
that surpasses Kizaru's power?
suppresses Kizaru, yeah.
Oh, wait, hear me out. A Logia that gives him control over all the elements.
Oh, wow.
He'd be like
All the elements.
a one-piece avatar.
A one-piece
I
avatar.
mean, come on.
That would be
That would be a game changer.
it would be a game changer.
Imagine a Logi awakening on that scale.
I know, right?
It could reshape Elbaf itself.
Reshape Elbaf.
And let's not forget the connection to Ragnarok.
Right.
Destruction and rebirth.
Right.
What if Loki's awakening is what triggers the destruction of Elbas
Oh,
and in turn unleashes Uranus?
interesting.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Right.
it is.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a prince with a powerful, mysterious devil fruit who wants to bring about Ragnarok.
Right.
But how does this all tie into the bigger picture of the One Piece world?
Well, you remember that visual parallel Oda drew
Yeah.
between Loki's introduction and Oars back in Thriller Bark?
Oh, yeah.
Both were chained up. Both had those imposing horns.
Right.
It's too deliberate to ignore.
You're right. And then there's that giant sword we saw.
Oh, the
We're in chapter 1130.
Yeah.
It's massive,
It is.
even for a giant.
Huge.
Could that be another clue about ancient giants?
Absolutely. We know Oars was from Elbaf, and now we've got this giant sword that looks like it could have belonged to an ancient warrior.
Yeah.
It all points towards Elbaf holding the key to understanding the history of giants and their connection to the world government.
So Elbaf is basically Giant Central.
It is Giant Central.
But what about Loki's devil fruit?
Okay.
Out of all the possibilities we've talked about,
Right.
which one do you think is the most likely and why?
You know, I'm leaning towards the Fenrir zone.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
We've got all this Norse mythology woven into Elbaf.
Right.
Loki wants to trigger Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And Fenrir is literally the mythical wolf destined to kill Odin during Ragnarok.
Right.
It's just too perfect thematically.
Plus, it would create this incredible parallel with Yamato
Yes.
and her mythical dog fruit.
exactly.
Ice versus fire, wolf versus dog.
Yeah.
It would be visually stunning.
It would be.
But wouldn't a Logia awakening be more impactful?
Okay.
in terms of causing widespread destruction.
You know, while a Logi awakening would be visually spectacular,
Right.
I think Oda's going for something more symbolic with Loki.
Okay.
He's not just a force of nature.
Right.
He's a cunning manipulator.
A trickster.
A trickster, yeah.
Yeah.
A Zoan form that embodies destruction and chaos just fits his character better.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But even if he has this powerful zone,
Right.
he can't bring about Ragnarok alone, right?
Right.
The source was mentioning something about potential alliances.
Alliances. Oh, yeah.
And let's be real.
Yeah.
The One Piece world is all about teamwork.
It is. It is.
So who do you think he might team up with?
Well, you remember Eustace Kid?
Ooh.
He's got a score to settle with Shanks.
Right.
And what better way to get revenge than by
Right.
causing chaos and destruction alongside Loki? They'd be a force to be reckoned with.
Talk about a chaotic duo.
I know, right?
But wouldn't that make them enemies of the Straw Hats?
Well,
I can't see Luffy just standing by
No.
while they just wreak havoc.
no, it definitely sets the stage
Right.
for some serious conflict.
Right. It's not just Kid we have to worry about.
Oh, no.
Remember Gecko Moria
Oh, Mario.
and Cross Guild?
Also Cross Guild? Oh, yeah.
They're after the Straw Hats' poneglyph rubbings.
Right.
And Elbaf could be the perfect place to make their move.
It could be.
Whoa. So we could have multiple factions converging on Elbaf,
Oh, yeah.
all with their own agendas.
It's going to be a
It's
mess.
going to be an all-out war.
It is.
But what about the ancient weapon?
Okay.
How does Uranus fit into all of this?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
You remember that concept of the big three?
Yeah.
Fishman Island, Wano, and Elbaf?
Right.
Each of these locations has been foreshadowed since early in the story. And each seems to hold a piece of the puzzle when it comes to the ancient weapons.
Right. Fishman Island had Poseidon.
Yep.
Wano had Pluton.
Right.
So it stands to reason that Elbaf would have Uranus.
Exactly.
But what does that mean for Loki and his plan to bring about Ragnarok?
Well, if we look at the events that unfolded in Fishman Island and Wano,
Okay.
we see a pattern emerging.
Okay.
Fishman Island was prophesied to be destroyed by Noah,
Right.
and Wano's borders are likely to be opened by Zunesha,
Right.
unleashing Pluton upon the world.
So you're saying Elbaf might need to undergo
They might, yeah.
a similar cataclysmic event
Mhm.
to bring Uranus into play.
It's possible.
And Loki's Ragnarok could be that very event.
Exactly. It might not be about senseless destruction, but rather a necessary step in a larger plan.
Mhm.
Remember, Ragnarok isn't just about the end.
Right.
It's also about a new beginning.
So Loki might be trying to usher in that new beginning,
He could be.
even if it means sacrificing Elbaf in the process.
Possibly.
But how does that tie into the liberation of Uranus?
Think about the symbolism.
Okay.
Uranus is the god of the sky.
Right.
And in Elbaf, the most prominent feature is that massive tree
Yeah.
reaching towards the heavens.
Right.
What if the destruction of the tree,
Okay.
a symbol of the old world,
Yeah.
is necessary to bring Uranus down to Earth?
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah,
It's like the tree is a barrier between the world and Uranus.
it could be.
And breaking that barrier is the key to unlocking its power.
Possibly.
But wait,
Yeah?
didn't the source say something about the world of the gods dying if the tree fell?
That's right, but maybe that death is more of a transformation. A shift in power from the old gods to the new.
Okay.
Perhaps Loki believes that by destroying the old order, he can create a more just and equitable world.
So he's not just a power-hungry villain,
Right.
but a revolutionary
He could be.
who sees destruction as a necessary step towards creating something better.
Exact. It's pretty deep.
Pretty deep.
Yeah.
It certainly adds complexity to his character.
It does.
And it ties into a recurring theme in One Piece,
Right.
challenging the status quo,
Right.
fighting for freedom and equality.
Yeah.
Loki might be on the same side as Luffy in the end,
He could be.
even if their methods are drastically different.
It's like they're two sides of the same coin,
Right.
both fighting for a better future, but with vastly different approaches.
Right.
Yeah.
But that brings up another question.
Okay.
If Loki does manage to trigger Ragnarok and unleash Uranus,
Yeah.
who's going to control it?
That's the million berry question, isn't it?
Wrong.
Will Loki try to control Uranus himself,
Right.
or will it fall into the hands of someone else?
Right.
Maybe someone unexpected.
Ooh, like Blackbeard.
Blackbeard,
Or maybe even the world government.
or the world government.
Ooh.
It's possible.
Right.
Remember, the world government has been searching for these ancient weapons for centuries.
Right.
They're not going to just sit back and watch
Right.
while someone else takes control of Uranus.
So we've got all these different factions vying for power.
We do.
A prophecy of destruction and rebirth,
Yeah.
and an ancient weapon with the potential to reshape the world.
It's starting to feel very endgamey.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And it makes the events unfolding in Elbaf all the more crucial.
Right.
We're on the cusp of a pivotal moment in the One Piece saga,
We are.
where the fate of the world,
Right.
the legacy of ancient giants,
Yeah.
and the truth about Uranus will all come together.
They will.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's not forget about another crucial element,
All right.
the human element.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about prophecies and ancient weapons, but what about the people caught in the middle of all this? I mean, Elbaf's a kingdom with its own culture and history and families. It's not just a battleground for power struggles.
You bring up a good point. And speaking of families,
Yep.
remember that little tidbit about Loki falling head over heels for Lola? He even asked for her hand in marriage.
Wait, Lola, Big Mom's daughter. The one with, let's just say, questionable taste in men. What was Loki thinking?
Well, that's the thing. Maybe it wasn't about love at all.
Oh.
Loki's a master manipulator, remember? Perhaps he saw an opportunity to forge an alliance with Big Mom through marriage, using Lola as a pawn in his game.
Whoa, that's cold. So he might have been playing everyone from the start.
It's possible.
But Lola turned him down right. Why would she do that? Did she see through his act?
Maybe she sensed something was off? That his heart wasn't truly in it? Or perhaps she saw a glimpse of his ambition, his desire for Ragnarok, and it scared her off.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not exactly the ideal husband material if you're looking for a stable, peaceful life. But it just goes to show how complex Loki is. He's not just a power-hungry villain. There's a cunning, calculating mind at work here.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder about his true motivations. Is he really just driven by destruction? Or could there be a deeper, more idealistic goal behind his actions?
You mean like, maybe he believes that Ragnarok is necessary to create a better world, to break the cycle of oppression and usher in a new era of freedom and equality.
Exactly. It might sound crazy, but it wouldn't be the first time a One Piece character believed that destruction was necessary for change. Look at Dragon and the Revolutionary Army. They're fighting against the world government, a system that's inherently corrupt and oppressive.
So maybe Loki sees himself as a revolutionary too. He's just taking a much more, shall we say, explosive approach.
Yeah.
But even if his intentions are good, doesn't that make him incredibly dangerous?
Without a doubt. He's playing with forces he might not fully understand, and the consequences could be devastating. But that's what makes this whole saga so compelling, right? We've got characters like Luffy who fight for justice, villains like Blackbeard who crave power, and then there's Loki, this morally ambiguous figure who blurs the lines between good and evil.
He's a wild card, that's for sure. And it's impossible to predict what he'll do next.
But one thing's certain. Elbaf is about to become the center of the One Piece world. We've got prophecies, ancient weapons, power struggles, and a cast of characters who are all about to collide in a truly epic showdown.
It's going to be a battle for the ages, that's for sure. And as we eagerly await the next chapter, the question remains, will Loki succeed in bringing about Ragnarok? Will Uranus be unleashed? And what will the world look like on the other side of this cataclysmic event?
That, my friends, is the real mystery. And it's one that will keep us theorizing and debating for months to come. But that's the beauty of One Piece, isn't it? It keeps us engaged, keeps us thinking, keeps us coming back for more. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that One Piece spirit burning bright.
All right, everyone, gather round, because today we are diving headfirst into the world of One Piece theory.
And let me tell you, this one is a doozy.
It really is. We're talking ancient secrets, devil deals, the works. If you thought the Grand Line was wild, strap in, because this theory is going to make it look like a kiddie.
We're talking about a theory that grapples with the very foundation of the One Piece world, the kind of stuff that makes you question everything you thought.
You know that feeling when you're reading One Piece and something just clicks, a tiny detail, a throwaway line, and suddenly you're wondering if Oda's playing 4D chess while we're all stuck on checker.
That's exactly the feeling this theory evokes.
And today, we're going to our source material, a YouTube video essay by HT called, wait for it, Corrected One Piece Theory Final V2.
Catchy, right?
Now, before we get lost in the weeds, let's set the scene a bit. Imagine a world, right, covered mostly in ocean, where pirates rule the waves, and a shadowy organization known as the World Government tries to keep things in check.
They're the ones calling the shots, the big dogs of the One Piece world.
And they enforce their rule with the might of the Marines, those lovable, I mean, those guys with questionable morals and even more questionable haircuts.
But here's the thing. Within the world government, there's an even more mysterious group, the Five Elders, better known as the Gorosei.
Ah, yes, the Gorosei. Those guys always look like they just smelled something awful, and it's probably the latest news about Luffy and the Straw Hat. What do you think?
Precise. They operate from the shadows, seemingly even above the celestial dragons, those descendants of the world government's founders.
And as if things couldn't get any more convoluted, we recently found out that there's someone above Ivar or even the Gorosei, pulling the strings from the deepest, darkest shadows.
Whose very existence throws the established power structure of the One Piece world into complete disarray.
Right. Talk about a plot twist. And this theory we're diving into. Well, let's just say it takes all of that and says, hold my sake, I'm about to blow your mind.
Because it suggests that the Gorosei, the ones at the very top, might have gotten their power from a source that's, well, let's just say it's a little less than...
They made a deal with the devil, didn't they?
Or, more precise, with a demonic entity that granted them unimaginable power. Power they then used to shape the world according to their will. Or perhaps emo.
I mean, it sounds crazy, right? Like straight out of a pirate's fever dream.
You'd be surprised how many One Piece theories involve some level of fever.
True that. But the thing is, this theory doesn't just throw out these wild claims. It actually backs them up with some pretty compelling evidence from the manga.
Evidence that, when pieced together, paints a very different and frankly unsettling picture of the Gorosei and their true nature.
So where do we even begin to unpack this? Let's start with something that's always bugged. The Gorosei's uncanny ability to just shrug off injuries that would put anyone else 6 feet under.
Ah, you're talking about their apparent immortality.
Exactly. I mean, remember when Shanks just casually strolled into Marineford and Sengoku nearly had a heart attack trying to keep things from boiling over? Gorosei, cool as cucumbers, sipping their tea like it was just another Tuesday.
It's almost as if they're unaffected by the passage of time.
That's putting it mildly. And then there are their names. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars. I mean, those aren't just cool-sounding titles.
They're direct references to Roman deity, hinting at a connection to ancient powers that goes far beyond what we've seen with, say, devil fruits.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
But even with the immortality thing, how does this theory link that to an actual deal with the devil? It's not like we see them with pitchforks and goatees, making contracts with shady figures and smoky back rooms.
Not explicitly, no, but remember Brook's little side adventure during the time skip? He stumbles upon a group of villagers trying to summon Satan himself. Remember how they were going to use a specific type of magic circle?
Oh, yeah. Those poor saps were trying to get some payback on those nasty slavers.
Yeah.
Desperate times, right?
Indeed. But here's where things get interesting. Those magic circles, they look suspiciously similar to the ones we see when the Gorosei gather for their...
Hold on. You're telling me those fancy pants meetings are less about world domination and more about demonic brunch?
Yeah.
Are they serving deviled egg? Because that would actually be terrifying.
Well, maybe not brunch, but you're definitely onto something. The theory argues that this visual similarity isn't just a coincidence. It suggests that Imu, or perhaps the Gorosei themselves, made a similar deal with a demonic to gain their power.
And they've been using that power for centuries to maintain their grip on the world. Now that's a plot twist for the age.
A plot twist with teeth, I'd say.
And fangs, probably.
Most definitely Fang. And you know what else this ties? The big one. The Void Century.
Ah, yes. The Void Cent. That giant question mark in One Piece history where the ancient kingdom mysteriously vanished.
And conveniently, all records of it were wiped clean, like someone was trying to hide someone.
It's like they say, history is written by the victor. In this case, the victors really didn't want anyone digging into their past.
Precise. This theory suggests that the Gorosei, or at least the folks would become played a key role in the downfall.
They won, not through superior tactics or even brute force, but through, you guessed it, a little help from their demonic sugar daddy.
It's a theory that, if true, rewrites everything we thought we knew about the events of the Void Century and the very foundation upon which government was built.
We're talking about a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top, folks. But before we get lost in the shadows of ancient history, let's shift our focus back to those mysterious Gorosei.
Because, believe it or not, their supposed demonic pact is only the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, there's more. I am both terrified and completely hooked. So we've established that the Gorosei are potentially immortal, possibly demon-powered, and without a doubt, shady as hell. But it gets even weirder because this theory doesn't just stop there. It dives deeper, claiming the Gorosei aren't just some random powerful figures who just happen to inherit their position. Oh no, it suggests they're directly connected to the very heart of the One Piece world.
You're talking about a direct lineage, connection going all the way back to the foundation of the world government. Remember those 20 kings who established it all those centuries ago?
Yeah, the ones who supposedly defeated the ancient king. Hold on, are you saying what I think you're saying? That the Gorosei are those original kings, as in the very same guys who defeated the ancient kingdom, made the deal with the you-know-who, and D have been running the show ever since.
It's a bold claim, that's for sure, but you gotta admit, it would explain their grip on power. And the theory actually lays out some pretty convincing arguments to support this. Remember those scars we were talking about earlier? The ones that seem a little too prominent for a bunch of immortals?
Yeah, you'd think after centuries, those scars would have faded.
Unless they were inflicted before they gained their supposed immortality. Think about it. Scars from the Void Century War, a permanent reminder of the battles they fought and the power they ultimately...
Okay, suddenly those scars seem a lot more significant. But scars can be, well, open to interpretation. You got any hard evidence to back this up?
How about a sword? And not just any sword, but the Shodai Kitetsu, one of the legendary cursed blades said to be imbued with incredible power.
All right, I'm following. One of the 12's Sayo Wazamono grade sword.
Right.
The highest grade there is. But wait, isn't that sword? Wasn't last seen with Kutoma. You're talking about Bartholomew Kuma, former warlord, former revolutionary. He's definitely not a Gorosei.
Ah, but that's where the theory gets interesting. How did someone like Kuma, powerful as he was, end up with a sword as ancient and significant as the Shodai Kitetsu?
So you're thinking there's got to be a connection, right? Like for Kuma to have gotten his hands on a sword that old, that important, it had to have been passed down through, well, someone really important, someone with a direct line to those ancient times.
Precisely. It suggests a hidden lineage, a connection between the Gorosei and ancient artifacts, potentially even weapons dating back to the Void Century.
Weapons they might have used to defeat the ancient kingdom. This is getting good, but there's more, right? The theory claims there's even more evidence to support this whole Gorosei are the 20 kings idea.
Let's talk about character design for a moment. Each Gorosei member, with the exception of the newly appointed Garling, seems to be visually inspired by a real-world historical figure. And not just any, but leaders known for unifying their nations or ideology.
Hold on, you're talking Abraham Lincoln, Gandhi, those kinds of figures, those historical heavyweights.
You got it. We're talking Giuseppe Garibaldi, the man who played a pivotal role in unifying. We've got someone who looks suspiciously like Ignace Tai, a driving force behind Japan's liberal movement. These aren't just random design. These figures were chosen.
So it's like they're designed after unifiers because, well, they unified the world, at least under the world government. But instead of peace and all that jazz, they did it through what? Fear, attrition.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? These figures, revered for bringing people together, reimagined as the villains of the One Piece world. It makes you wonder, are they a twisted reflection of their historical counterpart? Were they once benevolent leaders who, over time, became corrupted by the very power they sought to control?
Okay, now that's just messed up. Talk about a fall from grace. But it fits, doesn't it? This idea that the Gorosei, for all their outward power and authority, maybe they're actually prisoners in a gilded cage, trapped by whatever deal they made all those centuries ago.
Bound to uphold Imu's will, forever tethered to the shadows of the Void Century.
Okay, that image is both kind of cool and totally terrifying. But speaking of shaking things up, we haven't even touched on what happens after the river. Remember, the whole reason this theory is getting a second look is because of Saturn kicking the bucket and this new guy, Garling, stepping up.
Yes. Garling, the wild card. The one Gorosei who doesn't seem to fit the mold. His arrival throws a wrench into everything, and it's about to get very interesting.
Okay, so we've got these Gorosei, right? Ancient, potentially immortal, bound by some shadowy pact made way back when the world was still young. They've been calling the shots for centuries, pulling the strings from the shadows, but then bam, Saturn bites the dust, and this new guy, Garling, he just waltzes in and takes his place. What's the theory say about this whole power shuffle?
This is where the theory takes a really interesting turn. Remember how we were talking about the 20 kings and their impossible victory against kingdom? Well, the theory suggests that it wasn't just clever strategy or brute force that won them that war. It was a gamble, a Hail Mary pass with some seriously nasty strings attached.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. We're talking about a deal with the devil, right?
Yeah.
Or, well, a demonic entity to be exact.
You got it. The theory claims that Imu, in exchange for the power to crush the ancient kingdom, made a pact with a being of immense power, a being who demanded a steep, steep price.
And that price was their soul.
Bingo. The theory suggests that Imu, in their thirst for power, sacrificed something more than just their moral. They made a deal that bound their very demonic entity. And as part of that pact, they shared a sliver, just a taste of that power, with 5 key allies, the original Gorosei.
Making them virtually immortal, giving them the strength to enforce Imu's will, to shape the world in their image. Centuries of unchallenged rule, all thanks to a little demonic boost. But where does Garling fit into all of this? It's not like he was around during the Void Century.
That right there, my friend, is the million-berry question. See, the theory suggests that Garling's promotion isn't just some routine changing of the guard. Oh no, it's something far more significant, something that's never happened before in the world government's 800...
And that means, don't leave me hanging.
It means Imu, for the first time in centuries, felt threatened enough to break their own rules, change the game they'd been rigging for centuries.
Okay, I'm officially hooked. So after all this time, after centuries of pulling strings from the shadows, what could possibly scare Imu so badly?
Remember a certain someone who's making waves, a certain someone who's the spitting image of a certain legendary figure.
Wait, are you talking about Luffy?
Think about it. Luffy, the inheritor of Roger's will, the one who's awakened as the reincarnation of Joy Boy, his very existence challenges everything Imu has built.
Because Joy Boy represents
Freedom, liberation. Joy Boy is the antithesis to Imu's control, a beacon of light in the face of Imu's dark. The theory argues that this is what has Imu rattled.
So let me get this straight. Centuries of unchallenged rule, and suddenly Imu's sweating bullets because the good guys might actually stand a chance. That's poetic justice if I've ever heard it.
You could say that. And remember, we're talking about a power rooted in dark. Imu's power, according to the theory, comes from a deal with a demonic entity. And what happens when someone like Luffy, who embodies pure, unadulterated willpower, challenges that kind of power?
I don't know, but I'm kind of terrified to find out.
It's a classic battle of good versus evil, light versus darkness, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. But back to Garling. Why replace Saturn specifically? Was he just not evil enough for Imu's liking?
Yeah, what was up with that? Did Saturn forget to file his quarterly demonic report or something?
It's more than just that. Think about Saturn's track. He failed, and failed spectacularly, to maintain order at the Reverie. He underestimated Luffy and the Straw Hats, let Vegapunk's message get out, and to top it all off, the ancient weapon Pluton was awakened on Wano right under his nose.
Someone wasn't paying attention, were they?
Exact. And the theory argues that Saturn's failings weren't just a series of unfortunate events. They were symptoms of a much bigger problem, a crack in the facade of control that Imu demands. Remember his reaction when Imu stripped him of his power? He was shocked, completely blindsided.
You'd think after centuries you'd have seen that coming.
The theory points to that reaction as proof that this stripping of power has never happened before. It was a first, a clear sign that Imu...
So Garling's promotion, it wasn't just about replacing Saturn, it was a message, and not a subtle one either. It was Imu putting the other Gorosei on notice. Get in line or you're next.
And Garling, with his ruthlessness, his unquestioning loyalty to celestial dragons, well, he represents the new order. He's the muscle Imu brought in to crack some skulls and make sure everyone remembers who's really in charge.
So if this theory is even remotely true, we are headed for some seriously choppy waters in the One Piece world. But I gotta ask, with all this talk about demonic pacts and ancient powers, can Luffy and the gang actually pull this off? I mean, how do you fight against something like that?
That's the beauty of One Piece. It's a story where even when facing impossible odds, even when going up against enemies with powers beyond our comprehension, there's always hope. Because in the world of One Piece, dreams have power, friendship has power, and sheer, stubborn willpower, well, that can topple empire.
Okay, I needed that. It's good to be reminded that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, there's always a glimmer of light. But stepping back for a second, we've covered a lot of ground here. What are your final thoughts on this theory? Plausible, or is it just a bunch of crazy speculation?
Honestly, it's hard to say for sure. Oda, the mastermind behind it all, he's famous for his ability to weave these incredibly intricate narratives, full of twists and turns you never see coming. Could this theory be true? Absolutely. Is it outlandish? Or, but more importantly, it's thought-provoking. It makes us question everything we thought we knew about the world of One Piece and the forces at play.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's always a chance, right? And that's what makes theorizing about One Piece so much fun. We get to put on our detective hat, scrutinize every panel, analyze every line of dialogue, and try to piece together the puzzle that Oda's been constructing for decades.
And who knows, maybe, just maybe, we'll uncover a truth that even Oda didn't intend. But even if this specific theory doesn't pan out exactly as described, it raises some seriously interesting questions.
Absolutely. It makes us think about the nature of power, about the sacrifices we make in it, and about the cyclical nature of, and in the world of One, those are themes that resonate.
Well said. This has been a wild ride, a deep dive into the heart of One Piece conspiracy. And as we resurface, let's keep those thinking caps on, folks. Keep your eyes peeled for clues and never ever underestimate the power of a good theory.